Uh, yeah, basically the outline of what today's tutorial. I'm sure you have experienced with AR, building an AR application on mobile phone with AR Foundation yesterday. And today what we are going to do is we are going to cover something on top of that knowledge. And we are going to introduce MRTK package first, which is a mixed reality toolkit developed by Microsoft. This is especially developed for Microsoft HoloLens, but this package is also usable for any mobile phone. Of course, the feature is going to be quite different from HoloLens features, but most of there are lots of things that we can use from this package and mostly available for mobile phone as well. So we are going to use some interesting sample features from MRTK. And then after that, we are going to introduce Mapbox package. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that at all. Mapbox is another plugin. It's quite standalone. It doesn't necessarily about AR, but it has a lot of interesting map features, geolocation features that we can use to integrate it with your AR application in the future. So we are going to introduce that. Um, and then finally, um, and then I have a note. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And also, oh yeah, I forgot to mention that when we are introducing MRTK package, I will also spend a short amount of time to just illustrate how you would deploy the same kind of project to HoloLens, not only to mobile phone. Um, all right. So shall we get started? Yeah, okay. And you can stop me anytime if you have any questions. All right. So I'm going to share my screen. So during the tutorial, uh, I might miss some chat. So please feel free to just interrupt me. All right. So basically, when you start your project, which we are all using the same installation, 2019.4.9.f1. And if you have everything done for AR Foundation yesterday, the installation, you should have all these installations, uh, important installations, the modules. But I will cover about these modules when we talk about HoloLens. But for now, the ones that you used for AR Foundation for your mobile phone, it should be okay. Yeah, it should be okay. And first thing you need to do is to still import a AR Foundation. And from my experience, I normally do the build setting, change the build setting and player settings prior to do anything, because sometimes I have some problem with some settings, so it suddenly crashes or it doesn't want to change some features for me. So today what we are going to do is using Android device. So before I import any packages, I'm going to just switch my project platform to Android first. All right, once that's switched, going to go to the player setting and change the company name to something unique. Change to your project, your name. And then, yeah, same as what you need for the Android. You need to delete the Vulkan. And Android minimum API level to be 24 or 26. And target API level, we do not have to change that. We just have to untick the multi-threaded rendering. Yeah, in case you are deploying an iOS device, which is not your case today. So yeah, you want to change the minimal API level, target minimal iOS version, target minimal iOS version. Where is that feature? Target minimal iOS version to be 11.0. And then make sure that this is unchecked. Strip engine code unchecked. Yeah. All right, so that's the player setting, project setting. And then before you deploy anything, you need to add the scene here before you build. But for now, we can kind of close it. So make sure that all the player settings are correctly changed. One thing I will really appreciate is that if you turn on your video all the time, so I can actually see your faces. At least I can get how I'm doing, like if I'm doing well, or if you're following, or if you're having problem, if you're smiling, or if you're angry. At least with this very strange way of interacting, I will really appreciate to see if you are there to show your existence. Thank you very much. Okay. Where did I cover? Okay. Yeah, and then we are going to import the AR foundation. So until this step, it's going to be same as yesterday. We are going to use 2.1.8 version, which is the ones that I tested and it was no problem. If you want to check out more like later versions, you can, of course, you can do that. But always this combination of version and numbers are quite sensitive in Unity. So please be aware of that. So we are going to use today 2.1.8. And then we are going to import the AR Core XR plugin, 2.1.8 as well. I also tested 2.1.11. It worked also, but with 2. We don't want to risk, and on my note, this one definitely worked. So we are going for 2.1.8 and install. And if you are developing AR iOS app, you need to import ARKit XR plugin 2.1.9. But we are not going to develop iOS 1 version today. So I'm not going to use this one. But if you were to do so, you can also import this one. You can deploy both with same project. It's just that you need to have a Mac to open this package and then to build your project. Okay, we have changed. All right, so just to kind of recap with you, so you can add a AR session origin and AR session, and that's it, and delete the main camera, and that's it. That's your AR kind of world, if you remember from yesterday. And if you remember, your camera is always positioned in 000 position. And if you see this icon here, you see this blue icon that is pointing towards the direction. That's where my camera in this game scene is looking at. So if I just add a simple cube, for example, so you see that this game scene is now showing my cube. I can also rotate this. So that's actually what you are seeing in your scene. Unity, one unit, I'm sure Hanjun covered this yesterday, but one unit in Unity is 1 meter. Just remember this principle all the time, so you never change the position of the camera in AR. This is quite different from any game development. In the game, you might want to make the scene with the proper camera position to start with. But in AR, you just default camera angle is camera position and angle is 000 and towards 00Z direction. So never change any camera position. And then you can set out everything around it, and assuming that the person's eye, your camera, your phone camera is going to be standing there. So I normally encourage myself, also my students, to put a person that is scaled in meter to position here just before you kind of arrange things, to just give you an idea how things will be scaled and everything. Okay, I normally kind of at least have this kind of really simple scene to set it up, and then check if my version of AR Foundation and AR Core Kit is actually working and actually building. So at this point, I'm going to check the build. So add this scene, sample scene, add open scene, and build it. So we are doing building a lot today because time to time we just want to check if the version, if the small little packages what we are importing today is all going to work. Build. Because this is how we can actually kind of check and debug what's really working or not working, because there can be a lot of different frustration. So this one is going to be my AR or SDP01 simple cube. And it's an APK file, save and build. Yeah, if it was working, please try with 2.1.8 instead of 2.1.2 and see if that works, because I tested it with MRTK and it worked with MRTK. So MRTK needs also an upgraded version. So make sure that this is working for you. Okay, and then let's move on. So for MRTK, you need to download it from this website. Let me share the website link with you. So you need to download it from Welcome to MRTK page, which I will paste this one on the chat. Oh my God, they also changed something. Okay, that's okay. So we are using 2019.4 something. And you can download it here, but I also shared it from our folder because they have in the packages. For today, please download all 5 packages for now. And you do not import Mapbox yet, but you will follow me to import these 4 files. And make sure this is downloaded from here, 2.3.0, which is in their archive as well. So get the latest MRTK Unity package. We are not going to get the latest release. Go to the release page. You just follow the link. They have 2.5.1 already, but we are going to scroll down, and we are going to download these ones. Scroll down to assets and download to no. Let's see. So they have instruction for how to download these ones, but I already have saved these versions for you, so you can have it with you. So I already have it in my folder. So I have it here. So I'm going to import them from the assets import custom package. And I have my folder. And we are going to use AR foundation and AR example. So let's import the foundation first. And once you have done that, please import the example file. So you should import all of this. One thing, the reason we are using AR foundation and MRTK is because MRTK is built for HoloLens AR. So if you don't add AR foundation, it won't normally work in mobile phones. So the reason for using AR foundation is to be able to bring the MRTK to the mobile phone devices. So basically, later I will also show the principle of how to deploy things to HoloLens. So in that deployment, we don't need any AR foundation. We only need MRTK package.
Sorry, did you use the package manager, and did you do
assets
package?
Import package, import custom package. In the meantime, while we are waiting, You can also go to netbox.com, Netbox website, and make a registration. Just register a login, Netbox. Search for netbox.com, and you can make a login. So make a account for now. Yeah, while you are waiting or in your later break time. Okay, so once it's imported, you have to say just apply simply. And then you can just go to assets, import package again, custom package, and import the example files, say open. This one will be faster.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Which packages shall we import? Like the foundation one and the tools one, or the foundation one and the extension one?
Foundation and example.
Okay, cool. All right.
Cool. But it doesn't harm if you just import everything. It doesn't harm, but it's required to have foundation and example.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. All right. We can ignore this. Okay. So there's check what kind of error messages you are getting. Some error messages, but let's see if this affects us later in the, yeah, it's not good to see these warnings, too much warnings like this, but okay, just bear in mind. And then we are actually, so now in the assets folder, you will see all these things are imported. And this MRTK whatever is the ones that is just imported. And we are going to go to the example demos, and we are going to try to deploy two things today by Paulo. And go to boundary and scenes, and we are going to double click on this. Oh, sorry, not boundary, sorry. I'm looking for to change the folder. Boundary visualization, not this one. Not eye tracking. I will also show you what these are later. And let's use hand tracking. Hand tracking, okay. Hand interaction example, double click. And you can import the TMP essentials. This is just for visualizing the text a little bit better. Okay. Okay, yeah, and then you can close this. We are going to actually test deploying two projects today. So one is here, one is in this. I was looking for this bounding box here. So one we are going to use is hand tracking. Okay, so we are going to deploy this mixed reality example demos, hand tracking in scenes, hand tracking, hand interaction examples. And this is what you are going to see in your AR device. So if the icons are too big, you can turn the icons off or make the icons smaller. And in the scene view, you can just navigate around. But you can also see that your camera will be positioned here. And you will eventually see a lot of different things like this. And you can actually simulate this in the game, in this scene. So you can actually play it. Once you play it, actually, you will see that this kind of thing is popping up. And you will see this gaze. And once the gaze is on any button, you can actually click on it. But sometimes this simulation doesn't really work. So don't worry if it doesn't really simulate in the Unity game. You need to test it on your devices. We had this same issue before. So sometimes this simulation is not really accurate. So it doesn't let you click. In my case, sometimes it might on your computer. But this doesn't mean that it doesn't work in your actual app. Okay. So we are going to go back to your scene. And we are going to deploy this one. So before you deploy, this was just a example file. We're going to copy this example scene, save as. Say I'm going to save the scene in our asset scenes folder and interaction modify. Something like that, and then save. So we kind of know which one is referring to which example file. And then there are a few things we need to do before we export to device, mobile device. So you don't have to do this if you are exporting to HoloLens, but for device, you need to click on the mixed reality toolkit, and you need to create a clone, a profile. So it might not be very straightforward, but just go ahead and make a clone. And when you are making a clone, just make sure instead of saying new, you use your name or initial. Something for me, like I will make it SH and underscore and then say clone. This will create another profile file somewhere in the SS folder. You don't really need to move it or anything. But if you name it correctly with your name, you can actually search it later. If you like lost it, you can search it. I could have searched it. Yeah, so it's here. You can also come back here and you can access this. So once you have that, something here that you can now change because you copied the profile. So what you need is you can actually access to few of these things. You might have noticed that when we were playing the game, there was this weird bar here underneath. This is called profiler. So we can actually turn this thing off by going to diagnostics and disable this, uncheck it. So now when you play it, you will see that that's disappeared. Yeah, it's much cleaner. And there are a few settings that you can change later if you need some more kind of something about the reading of the rooms that you want to display as a wireframe or something that you can display here. And camera, you need to do another thing called we need to clone the profile of the camera and then change the name here and then clone. So you created two profiles here. And then here in the camera settings providers, you need to add a camera setting provider. And you will have a new provider here. You need to change this one from none to Unity AR camera settings. And that's it. And that's everything. And you are ready to build. So Paulo, how is it going?
I'm a little bit behind because it took me a bit longer to import all the packages.
Okay.
But I'm cloning the profile right now.
Okay, great. So I'm ready to build. So I'm going to build, but Paulo, please also help us build MRTK example. Build it. I hope it magically fixes the problem. Okay, awesome. This, oh, I should have named it 4. Then I'm going to.
Sorry, Sumin.
Yeah.
Just the last step was add camera setting provider.
Yeah.
Okay, you just have to.
So here in camera, you just clone it. Oh yeah, add camera setting provider, yes.
Okay.
And change the type to Unity AR camera setting. Oh, wait. Sorry, we didn't do it. One thing. My bad. We have to, in the build settings, we were still exporting the sample scene. We have to untick this and add the current scene. Yeah, it's my bad. And make sure that there's no star. So save this scene. Make sure the scene is saved, and now we are going to build it. And I'm going to change its name. Paulo, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm building right now.
Great. Did you change this build setting in the build setting? Did
Yes,
you add
yes.
open? Yeah, okay.
I uploaded also the Simple Cube APK on the Google Drive
Awesome.
folder, just in case you want to try it on your device to see if it's a device
Yeah.
issue or.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much.
No worries.
So I'm gonna do that. So we are in the APK Simple Cube. I'm going to download this one.
Are you teaching these topics at SciArc at the moment?
Yes.
Is it a studio?
Seminar,
Ah, right.
and yeah,
Nice.
I can show you some student projects later. Yeah,
Yeah, that would be great.
yeah. All right. So I have your thing here. Paulo, are you sure your cube was not really stick to the camera?
No, no, no. It was still
It was in the place? It was in
Yes.
okay. So it's, I think something, oh. It's just really laggy.
Mm.
It's working. So yours is working. I'm wondering, maybe mine is also might work. Okay. Okay, so Paulo's was working on my computer, on my device. We have it built. Here as this one. So let's build this. So this should work. I'm just wondering, maybe it's because it's laggy. So it's the same problem now what I'm seeing here. It's that all the buttons are actually working, but they are not really positioned in space. But in theory, they should. So this piano is clickable. And these buttons are, when you click on this button, the color changes. And these cups, you can move around, rotate, scale. There are different kinds of bounding boxes. I'm going to share this. Do you hear the sound? I hope this works for you, everybody. So in theory, it should look similar to this, but all these interfaces are positioned in space. All right, great. So it's working for everybody, not except for me. But I'm happy to hear that.
Well, it's not really working on the iOS as well. So, and so which, I just lost you because now I actually have imported all the packages, the examples. So where was the example package for that we needed to work on? Which one was it? It was in demos or?
It's here. Am I sharing my screen? It's here. In
Demos,
hand tracking,
yeah,
scenes,
yeah,
hand interaction examples.
okay, okay, cool.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So I hope that's working for everybody and I can move on. All right. So having said that, we are going to actually use this thing to kind of start to modify use different examples and start our projects. So we are not going to really start from scratch to build all these buttons or interactions. We're just modifying the given example files. And there are a lot of example files, and I'm going to explore that with you in a bit. Before that, just to show you how we can actually duplicate this process. If you want to work with another example files, you just have to repeat these processes again. So I'm going to try this with this bounding box example. So in demos, UX, bounding box, scenes, and bounding box examples. And here it's also a very simple different bounding box. What bounding box is you just saw that there were like a transparent something is going on in this object, yeah. So if you deploy this in a game, you will see different bounding boxes where which you can actually interact with. You can actually change their scale by clicking on it, which I cannot do here, but we can do it in device. But you can see that they have different kinds of display, right? So this one is HoloLens 1 style. HoloLens 1 had this kind of really chunky, big interface, but it's easier to grab. And this kind of bounding box, these are all different bounding boxes. And these have a default frame that is showing. These ones are cleaner relatively. And you have to make sure that they're HoloLens 1 style or HoloLens 2 style. HoloLens 2 style are designed for HoloLens 2, which you can actually use two hands to interact. HoloLens 1 style is relatively simple with a lot of this kind of gizmos to help you to drag, scale, and rotate using one hand only. So HoloLens 1 had only one hand interaction. HoloLens 2 have two hand interaction. So the ways to interact is very different. So sometimes I see still a lot of people are still using this kind of chunky bounding boxes. You can consider to use these kind of styles. So you can choose to kind of copy different templates from here. Yeah. So you can only tell that when you play the game. Anyways, we are going to also export this one. We are not changing anything, but we go back to the MRTK. We do the same thing. We make a clone, make another name, make a clone, and then make a clone of the camera. You don't have to use our previous profile, just make a new one. And in the camera, you need to add the provider, and that's it. And then you can build this, and you will see how this is actually working in your phone. So if you manage to do the previous one, this one should work fine. And you can check how this actually interacts with your devices, and you can choose to use any of these models. Okay.
Sorry for asking again, but what was the camera type again? It was experimental Unity AR?
Yeah. So this one.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. Okay. So I'm not going to save this. I'm going to go back to my previous scene. in my asset scene, hand tracking, don't save. Okay. And I'm going to try to start modifying these things. For example, if I have a model that I want to change the bounding box, this one obviously has a HoloLens 2 style bounding box. All of these have different bounding boxes. Yeah. And what if I want to start to make changes from here? So these sets are bounding box examples. This is a coffee cup example. And what we are actually seeing is that there are these prefect and there are these two geometries under this, a lot of weird things here. So this is everything that makes the bounding box. We don't want to really deal with it. So don't worry about it. Only thing we worry is everything under the bounding box. So you can change the text. You can just type different things here. So we are going to, let me just modify this cup to something that we want. So as we have a small model, I'm going to bring my own OBJ model. You can use your own OBJ model. Okay, I have this person. I'm going to use this model. Can be anything, anyways. Or I'm going to use my house model. So this is my house model. You can drag the OBJ and MTL file together like this. Yeah. And you can drag this, but I'm going to make a folder first. Models. It's really important to have a good foldering habit, because your project might become like really big in the future. And you might want to export and package them later, and it's better if you have a clear foldering strategy. Okay. And drag the house here. And I'm going to reset the platform. And it's too big, isn't it? So we're going to scale it down. Still big. Still. I'm going to move this one to that bounding box position. Okay. So I want to replace my geometry to this one instead. So if I go to the coffee cup, yeah, I can actually, so my house is here, and instead of cup, so I'm going to hide this for a second. So this coffee cup has two geometry, which is like one of it is this thing, and you can have a look, and it doesn't do anything with it doesn't do anything for interaction or whatsoever. So you can feel free to just delete it. Okay, so this one is not allowing you to delete it because it's a prefab. So you can actually right click and unpack the prefab, and then you can delete things and replace things and drag this under this, and you child it. Yeah. So by doing that, you kind of change the geometry. So this is no longer a coffee cup, it's a custom house object. And you can change the text. So you can kind of go ahead and from here say house sample. Activate by proximity. All right, this is activate by proximity. So that sounds good. So these bounding boxes are activated by proximity. Okay. And if you deploy this, you can actually see, you can actually test if this is actually doing the same as the coffee cup. So yeah, it's actually highlighting, and you will be able to, you should be able to, yeah, it activates that kind of cursor where you can rotate and scale and move. So that's how you can actually position a geometry inside the bounding box. Okay. And there are a lot of sections. This example file is actually made pretty well, organized it pretty well. And we are going to actually use this section only. So that's a press example. So these were bounding box example. Actually, we don't really need it for now, so I'm going to delete it. These ones, 10 example, we don't need it. Touch example, we don't need it. UI, we don't need it. Scene, we will leave it. This one, we don't need it. Slider example. And manipulation. So we are going to just leave these ones in front of our camera. Okay. So that's inside scene contents. All right. So yesterday, I'm sure, and I shouldn't have done anything while I'm playing the game because it refreshes. So always make changes when your play is when you are not playing the game. So apart from this one, under the scene contents, we can delete anything that you don't need. You can always copy paste from the original example file, but you don't want to really screw up the entire world setup. So don't change anything from other things. Only delete things from the scene settings. So I'm going to do this again. You can tell that I'm doing this pretty carefully so I don't accidentally delete something that I want. Okay. So only thing I have is I have this I have this hand interaction example, scene description panel. All right. So in this panel, of course, you can change the contents of this. It's important to just see what's really going on. And you can change the text here. And you can also change the description here. This one as well, you can change it. This is just a mesh. You can see. You can, of course, you can also delete it, or you can change this to something else. And there is this logo. This is a it's a sprite renderer. We can also change this panel, back panel, with some material applied as well. So let's try to do that. UI dark gray. We can have a look at this material. It's just a material, it's mixed reality toolkit standard material with no material in it, with very simple thing here. So I'm going to try import a image like this. So this is just whatever image it is, just to show you how you can change the material here. And then I'm going to go to my assets, make a folder, go to materials, and bring this one here. And when you import the image and make, if you are going to use that as UI, you want to change this to sprite 2D and apply. But we are actually going to use it as a texture, so maybe it's okay. Create a material and say background panel background. And you can change the albedo. You can use standard. I think you can use standard, but we are going to use MRTK standard. To follow the previous one. Where is it positioned? Okay, I will find it later. In here, okay. So here you can click on this icon and search for background canvas. And then I'm going to go to this panel. Just let me just find this. It's called standard MRTK standard. Doesn't have the standard available. So okay, I'll just use the normal standard. And then materials, I'm going to apply the material we just created here. So that's how you can actually change the material on your panel. So this one is actually a little bit of thick mesh, but you can actually use decide to use more like thin panels, like just a surface, instead of a black panel like that. And you can also change your logos to something else. Of course, you don't need to have all these ingredients. All right. And let me also show you, as there are lots of really interesting materials that are provided from MRTK. So in the MRTK, so I'm going to save this scene first. In the MRTK examples, demos, standard shaders, there is the scenes and material gallery. So double click on this one. And here you can see that there are some interesting materials that are provided by MRTK. They're pretty interesting, and we don't really need to do anything. We just need to use them. So let's use that. So for example, this one is pretty cool. Like it looks like almost like hologram and ghost. So if you play this, you will see that some of these are also animating. Some of these are actually, you can see some of these are animating. So these materials are pretty cool. So you can choose any of these to use, but let's choose one that is a bit more obvious. Okay, I'm going to choose this one. Okay, so this one, you click on it, you will see that the renderer is cube inner glow. So you can actually find all the names of the materials by clicking on it and see the name in the renderer, mesh renderer. All right. This one is also pretty cool. It changes color according to where you are seeing it. Cube environment color. Okay, so let's just use this one. This one is going to highlight the edges. It doesn't work with round geometries though. Okay, so cube inner glow. So I remember this name, and I'm going to go back to my my scene. So I'm going back to my scene. Though yeah, so for example, I have this piano, and this piano has a lot of things, but the renderer is actually under the interaction object. So it's using piano keys material, but we are going to use cube inner glow. Was it? Material. It's not that obvious, but you can actually change the material by accessing these files. You can change material one by one. Cube, you can change cube border. There was something like that. So you can play with the material. And here as well, the button, I would actually consider changing this material. So this button consists of two objects. button has a tube, this white thing, and the cylinder. And the cylinder has a container and a cylinder. So this doesn't, you can see that there is no interaction here. So you can actually do a lot of different changes, or you can even replace with your own geometry here. So we can change this material to something like, I'm gonna just try whatever pops up, or I can go back to check different materials there. Environment, cube environment material. So this one only works with cube though, but something with edgy. But okay, this works pretty good. So yeah, why not? You can also change this material, the cylinder material, color, button, proximity. You can change this one to something else, like this one. Okay, that doesn't look that bad. I might want to flip the relationship, but yeah. So you can by doing that, you can just change the visibility of things. So it's really not that hard to change what you want. Change the button and everything. But what you need to really remember is that, so if you kind of click on this, you kind of can see how big is the bounding box. All the interactions of one button is actually happening in this hierarchy. So you can see that there's 1, 2, 3 buttons, and there are lots of children here. And most of these things are actually hidden. This will kind of pop up, I think, when it's actually necessary. It's actually hidden. Okay, they are not useful. So everything is underneath here. It's just for displaying. So we have cylinder. It only have mesh renderer. This doesn't do anything. Tube doesn't really do anything. So only thing you need to consider is this. Yeah, so that's the most important thing. So now what we are going to do is we're going to make some changes to this thing and have different interactions of this button. Okay. So we can have something to display here and toggled by this button. We can actually create something from here. We can make like a few cubes, small cubes, for example. And then we just show how they actually stacks up one by one by clicking on this. But it's more useful to have, for us to cover something that we can import from Rhino or Maya or Grasshopper or Cinema 4D and everything. So I'm going to just build something really simple from Rhino and then import that as FBX. So, okay. So make sure that my unit options. Where's my unit? Is meters. And I'm going to, you can build whatever, but let me see if I can bring. Sorry. Something simple. Okay, I have house. Okay, I have house. Let me import this house. And this is Y up. That's correct. And let's say I want, so this is one object, so I will explode this. On group. They're all connected. Doesn't let me explode. Doesn't matter. I just need to make this into like 5 parts. I will have this one as joined one part. I'll just make sure that this is 5 parts. Join. Change. I just joined, so they're just one mesh, so I'm not really caring too much about the material at this moment. But FBX is exporting all the materials. Join. I'm going to just apply same materials for everything for now. I'm not going to worry too much about the material. Apply. I want to apply material. Changing material. Oh, this is not material. This was a display color. All right, sorry. So the display color should be default by layer. Okay, so we have, if I select it, what? It should say, it should just say 5 meshes. Just want to make sure that I do that. 5. I didn't join this one. So it should say, okay, only 5 meshes now. So I have only 5 meshes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Now I want to have this interacted with this button and display part by part only when I start clicking. So I'm going to export this separately as separated 5 objects. In the future, you might have like hundreds of different parts. then OBJ doesn't do that for you. If you just export this as an OBJ, it's going to import as just one single mesh. So that's why you need to export this as a FBX. FBX. Yeah. House. 5-part house. Mesh only. And it's exported as FBX. Let's see if it comes well. So I'm going to import this inside our models folder, drag it, and I'm going to drag it in here. And I'm going to have a look at these. Okay. So you see that there's really weird thing is happening to the camera. It's because by default FBX is also copying your camera. So don't worry, just right click, unpack prefab, delete everything else that is not really usable, because those were cameras. And you can actually check so they didn't come. So let's check. Those things are, this didn't come, but the layers came and the objects. Oh, so I was not doing it really nicely before. So I had these objects. Okay, let me do this again with more cleaner method. It's okay. I'm going to, actually you don't have to do that. You can have all of this in same folder. Then export, or select this, export selected, 5-part FBX. FBX. This mesh was really, this one was a little dirty. So I'm going to delete this. Okay, I'm gonna do this again. So bring the 5-part model. Make sure that they have OBJs. Inside default, there are objects, and we don't need to have these cameras by unpacking it first. Unpack. Okay, so in the default, you have all these objects. So we don't need to child this under that. We can just directly child this here and then delete this file. This one can be, positioned and scaled. Okay. All right. So now what we are going to do is I'm going to let this house to display in the order that I set here. But this one should be the first one to display. So I should put this one as the first one. The second one will display, third one, fourth one, and fifth one. These ones look pretty good in terms of the order. But you can actually manually change the order of their displaying sequence by putting them in sequence under this object. Okay. And then what we are going to do is we are going to use one script that I shared with you. So that is in the drive. Today's day. Okay, so there is this script. It's called display on click CS. So download this one. I have it in my folder, so I'm going to use that. Display on click, yeah. And let's make a folder here called scripts. Create a folder, script. Import display on click. And we will quickly have a look. Okay, whatever it says, just say apply. I don't know why it suddenly asked me. And then this one will be hooked up to these 5-part houses. So this can be dragged to here or dragged to there. And right click and edit script to just check what's inside. This is not very optimally written script, but it works. But I will explain what are the functions inside. Okay, so here you can see that there is this function. Whatever you see, this void something, this kind of structure is a function or a method. There is this start function looping through all the child of this geometry. And this first one is toggle display all on click. Second one is grow on click and go back on click. So what it does literally is that turning on and off the mesh renderer of certain things and remembering something called current ID. So when the current ID is 2, for example, then in here, it's only showing the 0 and first one, and then from 2, 3, 4, and everything else is turned off. So it's just looping through everything and turn off everything, and then just turn on the ones until the current ID. And the current ID will increase whenever you press a button. Okay, and this is the opposite. So it decreases the current ID. And this one is just keeping the current ID, but just make sure that you sometimes want to see everything. So toggle on and off. So by remembering that, I'm going to put it on my side so I remember the name of the functions. I will go to my buttons. So I'm going to use all 3 buttons here. And the first one is going to be grow on click button. So you can name it also here, say grow button, grow. The second one can be, oh, maybe it's better, maybe it makes more sense. The left one is back. And this one, button, sorry, button plus or grow. Button, toggle all. Okay. Once you have that, now you can just add the event. So the first one, so there are lots of events like this here. So you shouldn't touch anything inside pressable button. So don't mix it with this one. So there's another event here. So this is interactable event. This is something else that is toggling the sound or of triggering the sound of clicking sound and something like that. So don't touch there. So make sure that you are coming to here, interactable event. The current event it has is just changing the color of this small box. So if you're seeing the color changer increments, if you're seeing this, you are in a correct position. If you are there, you can, if you want to still keep this function, that's okay. You can just add it, add a new function. But you can also delete this function as you don't need it. You can delete it. You can add a lot of different functions by one click, of course. But for now, we are just going to add one. So this one is going to be the back button. So here you want to drag the house here. And now make sure in my house, I have this script, display on click script. So go back to this event, 5-part house, and find the function display on click and go back on click. And then click on the second one, find the same event, delete this event, add a new event, drag the house here, find the display on click, grow on click. The third one, button toggle all, same. Drag this 5-part house, display on click, toggle display on click. Okay, that's it. So I'm going to okay, so here I'm going to just change this text. So go to your button, and you have two objects. One is the button, actual geometry, and this small tag. This is ugly blue. You can also change the color. You can change the size and everything. You can change the material here. You can change this material to something more, like a much better something. I don't know. Anyways, yeah, don't go too crazy. You can just change the material to something better. But more importantly, we are going to change the content, say back, decentralize it, text, back and grow, and centralize it. Okay. Then this one is toggle and so why decentralized? Why only this one is different? This one looks a little different. Okay. All right. Now, once you play it, as I know it won't simulate, let's see, it's going to disappear in the first scene. And if we click this one, it's not going to do anything because it's going back. So you need to grow a few layers first before you can actually go back. And then if you click on this one, you can actually toggle on and off. Okay. So now you are ready to build and test if this geometry is actually interacting with your buttons. So you have to save this first, of course. Save the scene. And then build it. 6. Okay. So while we are building this one, do you have any question so far? How are you guys following?
Good. I think it's.
Is it working? Let's try.
I got a question. Like when I hit play,
Yeah.
It says XR plugin management has detected that built-in VR is
don't worry.
enabled.
Yeah, that's fine. Just ignore the message.
Okay, it doesn't have to say anything because here it says we must disable built-in VR prior to using XR plugin management.
I had the same window and I just ignored it.
Okay.
Yeah. If it builds with some problem, let's do something about it. I have been ignoring it and it was no problem so far. Okay, I have this built and I'm going to put it on my drive. Let's see. Are you guys also testing?
Well, I can't really because I'm on iOS.
Uh-huh. Okay, but you are following.
Yes, I'm following.
Great, great. Okay. Still, I have this problem that is sticking to my camera, but I'm actually clicking. I'm clicking on the first button. I have third button works. Second button is decreasing. But the second button is also decreasing. Maybe I made a mistake. So I'm going to go back to my scene, my Unity to check. So this button, I actually did twice the go back on click. So it was my bad. So I should have checked grow on click here. Yeah. And this one is going back on click. So yeah, this was working. So is everybody's deployment successful? How is it going? Great.
Yeah, good. It's
Okay.
working.
Working great. Awesome. 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 Let me check my notes. Okay. So the second part of this tutorial, I will cover. I will introduce Mapbox SDK. And how do you use that together with the MRTK buttons and interactions? And also I will show you, prior to that, I will also show you how to export to HoloLens from Unity package similar. But shall we take a 10 minutes break? Yeah. Let's say 15 minutes break. So shall we come back at 6:30 a.m. my time? So it's 15. So yeah, see you at 30.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.